It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, so to speak. I am 𝕴𝖗𝖐𝖆𝖑𝖆, your host with the roasts. For those that don't know, a NIMBY can be understood as in terms of what the acronym means. Not in my backyard. NIMBY is what someone is called when they appear to be fixated on real estate value, property rights, above all other matters. Show up a lot to city hall meetings to talk about the homeless, but it's not just the homeless that NIMBYs mess with. A common NIMBY behavior is you have a tree that's been in your family a long time, and the roots or branches start to grow into their yard and across their property line. And rather than just politely asking you to prune the tree, I don't want that tree in my backyard, and it's technically my tree now that it's across the property line, bothering me and giving me anxiety. So they show up to City Hall or take you to court to try to force you to cut down the tree. American Horror Story recently did this incredible thing, double feature, and the first of the double feature was Red Tide. And in Red Tide, satirizing gentrification, wealth, fame, there's a little bit of jabs at NIMBYism, predatory, supernatural beings. The city council has some kind of deal or understanding with these predatory, supernatural beings. Fuck NIMBYs. Drinking kratom for energy. In preparation for responding, preparing my rebuttal, a certain individual, I think his name is PG or PQ or some nonsense like that. He is the ultimate NIMBY. He is the grand poobah of NIMBYism, this man. That's the emotion I'm feeling right now. So, actually, something he wrote about me and my poster. A lot of people don't know who originally made this poster. And in a little while, we're going to watch his slideshow about me. So, this is an article in the Stranger newspaper. It's a popular newspaper in Seattle. And essentially, the name of it, you can look it up. It's a poster encourages Seattleites to narc on the homeless by using the Find It Fix It app. Essentially, the story is, and this was in, I think, 2019 or something. The story is there's this app. It wasn't originally created to bother the homeless. That's a picture of me when I was homeless. There's a filter on it so you can't see it very well, but it was originally created to to essentially enlist the public in fixing potholes by giving them a opportunity to call in to report things that they didn't like. And so it can be really useful for that. It does serve an important purpose for a lot of reasons. When people say want to report, say, a street light that's not working, stuff like that. But you can technically use it to report tents, use it to report people living out of their cars. And it was just a NIMBY's dream. Suddenly they didn't have to go to City Hall or complain that the police aren't showing up fast enough. They, as I've said in videos before, I don't have some personal vendetta against real estate people. A lot of them are decent, nice people. Often ignorant about issues like this. Sometimes willfully ignorant, but it's not personal. My frustration with them. My sister, who I absolutely adore, was briefly a landlord. She owned a house in Tacoma, Washington, and she was a great landlord. She was great to her tenants. You know, I'm not gonna wig out if a grandma and grandpa are renting out a spare room. You know, like, it's not the end of the world if someone does that. It's just there's a difference between the culture and institution and corporatizing of a landlord and just a middle-class person who is doing a thing to survive. Or just doing something maybe questionable from a class conflict and economics standpoint, but that doesn't mean they're a bad person. Now, all of that said, I'm just going to jump right into it because I am being a little too long-winded, and this is great. This is just, and this really speaks for itself, honestly. It's just, this guy, this, as they say where I grew up, this fucking guy, this jabroni, like, yeah. Break it down now.
Now it's come to my attention that we have a lot of people here. You've said incredibly hateful and nimbious things that want to be enforced. We have quite enough of this race and this over from you. It's going so fast. You should work, not wait for a roast duck to fly into your mouth. That's
such an absurd image. Our movement is called See a Tent, Shut the Fuck Up. I feel seen. Wow. I need to fucking slow this fucking shit down. Oh my god. You know, there's no shame in not understanding how to make a video, but this guy's a cokehead. This looks like it sounds like it was made by a cokehead. Just, God, I'm trying to put a filter on it in OBS to force it to slow down. Because none of y'all are gonna be able to read this fucking shit. Oh my god, there's no way to slow it down. Well, whatever. Man angry. Like, complaining. See this? Shut the fuck up. He's just chilling. Now, I am going to respond seriously to what he's saying, because this is a common NIMBY tactic. Take an image that is going to have an intense impact. Just, the images are powerful, especially these images. What we're seeing in these images is not okay, full stop. And this is coming from someone who is homeless and who a large part of my friend group, most of my friends were homeless, many still are, and littering the ground with insane amounts of needles, they're being just utterly trash campsites. It's ecologically irresponsible and it's socially irresponsible. And here's the thing, though. Here's how I've explained it many times before. If your grandpa, your dear old grandpa, who is so civilized, was suddenly kicked out of the nursing home because he couldn't pay and insurance fucked up. And this has happened before. Old people have been evicted from nursing homes and have become homeless. This has happened. If you want to test me on that, I can show you links, show you evidence. But he doesn't like this woman. I don't know why. She seems great. She seems really nice.
Who does that? How is it possible that residents would actually want to clean park? The other day, I was going on a walk to hot yoga with my best friend, my toy poodle, Mr. Future Man, and my other toy poodle, Mr. Nibbles, and we had to see a homeless man existing, and Mr. Nibbles had terrible anxiety. We almost didn't make it to our hot yoga class. And he almost didn't make it to his massage appointment. Think of the children and the puddles. Yeah!
Yeah! Gonna bulldoze your tensity. Gonna put you in a bad situation. Yeah. Getting funky now. Oh, Portlandia. Everyone knows that Portlandia is a documentary. This does, in fact, happen. All of this is exactly real. And the lack of media literacy is just fucking Rube. Like, he's not making fun of the homeless. He's not criticizing the homeless. He's criticizing, like, a specific subset of punk rock culture. Essentially punk rock's version of Trustafarians. That's the thing, is what a lot of what's true of hippies is sometimes true of punks, and they hate it when you say that, but sometimes it's true. There are some traveler punks and street punks who are kind of like this. They're practicing poverty tourism. Now, it's not the worst thing that could happen. It's not the worst thing someone could do. Oh my god, he's playing Big Rock Candy Mountain.
Big Rock Candy Mountain is not fictional. This is a real place. I will have you know. Big Rock Candy Mountain is public property. There used to be a beautiful ski resort there with all kinds of fun and games, and now Christmas is canceled and no one gets to ski. Skiing is illegal because the homeless want to live there. Me and Mr. Nibbles just don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah, so, I've said this many times. I lost my train of thought. But if your dear old grandpa was kicked out of the nursing home and was homeless for 1 month, I guarantee you he would be doing a lot of the things that are in this video. He'd be falling asleep on the sidewalk. He'd be being rude to people. He'd be like yelling about the CIA trying to steal his thoughts and devices in his brain. He'd be at least considering smoking meth. Within a month and a half to 2 months, he'd have a full-blown addiction. He'd be fucking developing psychosis. He'd be a public nuisance. So, like, when people point to, this homeless man is doing this thing and it's scary. My child is terrified. Actually, I'm just playing my Nintendo Switch. I didn't even realize that guy was yelling. I'm fine, Dad. My child is terrified. He's having to play video games to cope with what he's having to see. Like, and the child is just like, God, I can't wait till my dad stops screaming so I can go home and play more Fortnite. Kids, the new generation of fucking kids is not spending all their time like, if only homeless people didn't exist. They're fucking but yeah, like, I knew someone who once saw someone smoking heroin on a bus. Um, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's okay. Uh, I have seen needles. I have seen a campsite that was so disgusting. Like there was a small. There was like a hill of needles where there was once a fucking little pit for fire. We literally had to. Me and I was homeless at the time. With my abusive boyfriend Phaedra. He'll say that he was never my boyfriend, but that's bullshit. He's such a fuckboy. We had to. So there was this tarp that just had all kinds of filth, congealed old clothes, and needles, and we had to pull up the tarp and roll it to the side. The thing is, just to get the tent down, and the thing is, human beings are animals. It takes a lot to civilize a human being, and it's easy to not think about the process of becoming not feral and civilized. It's easy to not think about that because it's become so automatic. As Don Miguel Ruiz said, we domesticate ourselves. We are an auto-domesticating animal. He talks about that in the chapter of the Four Agreements, Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. It's a brilliant book, The Four Agreements, a summary of the mastery of transformation. And what you're seeing is not someone who woke up in the morning, you know what would be a great way to spend my time, gang? What? Let's ruin someone's brunch by just yelling at them about our psychotic delusions, and then let's ruin a campsite by just filling it with needles. Wow, that sounds fun! And then let's have emotional breakdowns in public, and let's live on the street and hate ourselves and be hungry and smelly all the time. Yeah, let's do that. Like, that's... No one does that. No one. Yeah, sure, there's a few old timers that the street punks call them home bums, being a modern nomad. So yeah, it's oh god, it's just it's like people see an old man who is like, you know, shitting in an alleyway and talking to himself, or you know, an old woman who's smoking meth, and they just like, oh, these like it's a rabid grizzly bear, but that's a grandpa. He probably has grandchildren. He's had a life. He has stories. He may be a fucking Vietnam vet. He may have dementia and have gotten kicked out of the fucking nursing home because his healthcare fucked up. And no one in his shitty family helped him with the paperwork to sort it out. I mean, people fall through the cracks. Like, I'm not a big fan of Michael Moore. I think he's a little bit self-righteous. His movie about guns was fucking stupid. His film about healthcare was brilliant. He investigated this specific case. There's a old woman with brain damage who, I mean, she was hit by a car or something. She cannot take care for her. They gave her some ineffective care at a hospital, and then they discharged her to a homeless shelter. And she didn't understand what was happening to her. She didn't understand like what she was supposed to do. So she just wandered around in the street. I believe she like got arrested for something. A pro bono lawyer investigated her case and got some attention, got her some real help. It became a really big case. And the doctor who made that call ended up, you know, getting in a little bit of trouble. You know, your job is stressful, but fuck you, man. Fuck you. That's not okay. I mean this, and I actually, like, to give you a sense of how common this is, I mean, I was homeless as recently as September of last year. Me and my boyfriend Yoshi in Portland, Oregon, of the river, the big river. Actually, we were a little north of Burnside near the convention center where there's that big cluster of hotels and shit. And there's this woman, same thing. She she was disoriented. Something had happened with her medication. I could tell. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I could tell there was something neurologically wrong with her. Like, she'd repeat things. We'd say something, and she'd forget what we said, like, 2 minutes later. She was attached. She became attached to us in an almost childlike way, like we were her adopted parents. She'd assume... She was behaving in a way that clearly showed mental illness or partial dementia. She was in a hospital gown. She had all of her belongings in a plastic bag. And I swear to fucking God, it said on the hospital discharge paperwork, in the list of symptoms, homelessness, meth addiction. That's not a fucking diagnosis. Homelessness is not a diagnosis. It's not, and meth, like, yeah. So there's some portion of not giving a fuck, and there's some portion of being incredibly overworked and just not having the energy to... Whatever it is, it's fucked up. And basically, me and Yoshi, we were homeless ourselves, and we spent hours and hours sitting with this woman, trying to propose ideas to her, telling her where the shelters are, what areas of the city to stay away from. We got her some food. We stayed with her a long time, but she was just too broken. Like, ultimately, we had to go keep trying to get to a hotel. No one would let... We had money. We had cash, cold hard cash for a hotel room, and everyone kept telling us that we needed like $200 or something for a deposit, which we did not have. We had enough cash for a room and a small to medium deposit. Like, but the deposit was always huge, or they only took debit card. We just tried hotel after hotel after hotel after hotel after hotel. I also wouldn't be surprised if some of them were discriminating because of a trans woman, a white trans woman with face tattoos, and a black man who appear to be in a relationship together. I mean, you're out of your bloody mind if you think that people wouldn't discriminate against that. Yeah, and then when we finally found a hotel that the Hopper app, a great app by the way, the Hopper app finally found us a hotel, and it was almost an hour and a half bus ride to get to this hotel. Crazy far to the east. And when we got there, it was all set up. We had an email. I could show that email sometime. The email said what a reservation was, that everything was set up, that the room was paid for and ready to go. And this fucking woman who was incredibly rude. Like, I went in there and was like, ma'am, I think we're having a failure to communicate. And I just tried very politely to understand, like, why she was not... And just out of nowhere, she's like, get out. Get out. I'm like, and I just laughed at her. I'm like, no. I didn't do anything. She's just like... She just walked away and kept muttering at me from, like, some area, like some staff area off to the side. I'm like, you are a ridiculous person.